On today's show, we recap all four games of the World Juniors opening day, including two shocking upsets, all coming up on Locked On NHL Prospects.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this podcast, I break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. I'm Hadi Kalikesh. I'm a scout and prospect analyst across multiple platforms, including this one. And I've got a great show for you today. We're going to be breaking down the four games that occurred on opening day, on Boxing Day, of the World Junior Championships in Moncton and Halifax. There were a couple games to review. We'll review Switzerland versus Finland. We'll review USA versus Latvia and Sweden versus Austria. And then we'll end out the episode with Canada versus Czechia. Now we're going to go through all of that, break down the scores, the standout prospects, a lot more. So yeah, yesterday was the opening day of the tournament, and there were two very surprising upsets to start off the tourney. So stick around to find out about that. Now, before we get into any of it, just remember to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure to make us your first listen of the day. It's always very much appreciated. So we'll go in chronological order. So first up was the first game of the tournament, which was Switzerland versus Finland, and it's just so fitting that the first game of the tournament was an upset. So Switzerland won this game 3-2 in overtime, and they looked like the better team for most of the game. And that's despite having two drafted players in their roster to Finland's 15. So a great gap in the amount of drafted prospects between the two, with Switzerland really looked dominant in this game. So the first goal of the game was scored by Konsta Kapanen by Finland. Konsta Kapanen is the son of former NHLer Sami Kapanen and the brother of current NHLer Kasperi Kapanen. He scored the opening goal for Finland with a great effort at his own blue line. He pushed the puck past the Swiss defender and jump started the 3-on-1 for his team, and then he put home a juicy rebound left out by the Swiss netminder. But then Switzerland scored two in a row to make it 2-1. Both of them were assisted by Jonas Tybell, who I was impressed with. More on that later. And then Kalle Väisänen scored for Finland to tie it up, and the game went to OT as a result. In overtime, Joakim Kemell was on the first unit, despite having started the game on Finland's roster as the 13th forward. He ended up being among the first three players sent out on the overtime shift, the first shift of overtime. But he turned the puck over in the offensive zone. Leon Bixel of Switzerland did a great job of cutting him out. Bixel is a first round pick of the Dallas Stars. The only sort of notable player on Switzerland. He did a great job of breaking up the puck, getting it away from Kamel, and then racing him to the offensive zone. He retrieved the puck in the offensive zone, held off some players who were trying to get it off of him, and then laid it off to Tilio Biasca, who was streaking right in. He walks into the high slot, takes a shot. It squeezes through Aku Koskenvo's glove and goes in the back of the net. That is the game for Switzerland. Now, a couple of interesting notes about Finland's lineup. So, Aron Kiviharju, I forgot to mention this on previous episodes, but Aron Kiviharju, one of the top prospects eligible for the 2024 NHL draft, he was cut from Finland's roster. And I can't for the life of me understand this decision. I mean, Kiviharju, as a defenseman, I mean, if he was the exact same player that he is right now in terms of tools, in terms of physical abilities, if everything was the same, but he was 19, I'm pretty sure he would be Finland's top pair defender. But instead, he's left out the roster. So that's an important omission from the roster that I want to mention. But moving on to the players that played in this game, Habs prospect Oliver Kapanen was centering the first line for Finland. I was quite surprised about that because Oliver Kapanen really strikes me as a defensive center. So to place him between Koivunen at his left and Brad Lambert at his right to start the game out for Finland was pretty interesting to me. So it was an interesting decision. But then Brad Lambert got demoted, and Joachim Kemel went straight from 13th forward to taking his place on the first line. Another sort of interesting coaching decision. Usually players get worked up the lineup; they don't go from 13th forward to first line. But that was an interesting thing that happened in that game. Joachim Kamel ended up, by the end of the third period, he was playing every third or fourth shift for Finland as they tried to score a goal. Another very interesting player to me who showed a lot of strides in his game is Topias Villain. He was a fifth round pick by the New Jersey Devils in 2021. He's progressed a lot since his draft year. I mean, Villain was previously to me, from in my viewings, a low impact defensive defenseman, the type of guy who's going to break down rushes, who's going to defend his own zone really well, but doesn't offer much more than that. But he's added a lot of playmaking tools. The most surprising for me, in terms of the offensive tools that he's added, is his backhand. When I scouted him in this draft year, it was a glaring weakness. I mean, he never seemed to use his backhand, and when he did, things went wrong real fast. But now in this game, especially, he played three or four solid, accurate tape to tape backhand passes across multiple lines to advance play into the offensive zone. So, from what I've seen, he's turned a glaring weakness into a really good strength. And I'm really curious to know how that happened because I don't really keep up with a lot of the late round prospects after they get drafted unless they show something really interesting or and they turn out really great. So I'll see if I can get some tape of Topias Villan this year in the SHL and see what's advanced in that sense. Because in my viewings of him in his draft year, I didn't see any of this. So for it to come out of the blue, that's really rare. So I'll try to sort of get some tape on him and get some evaluations of that. But now for the standouts for each team in this game. So obviously for Finland, Topias Vilen is one for the reasons I just mentioned. Another one that really impressed me on Finland's roster is Ville Koivunen, and I think he's going to be a very good player at the NHL level. He was a high draft pick by the Carolina Hurricanes, I believe in 2021, and in the 40s approximately. And I was also pleasantly surprised with Konsta Kapanen, who went undrafted last year, the player who scored the first goal for Finland, and Kalle Väisänen was really productive in this game and showed a lot of intensity, a lot of pace. I like to see that. So those two, I think, were sort of the standouts, other than the big ones in Villain and Koivunen for Finland in this game. But for Switzerland, the standouts for me, first and foremost, Leon Bixel. I think that without Bixel, the Swiss have no chance in this game. He made so many good defensive plays. He made the primary offensive play that led to their overtime winning goal. So that was really impressive of him. I did like Mats Algi's game. I thought he showed a lot of intensity in this game. He was all over the place, breaking up pucks, creating turnovers. He got the primary assist on the second goal by Switzerland, because he broke up an attempted pass by the defenseman right in the slot. He picked up the puck and kind of shot it on net while falling, and his teammate picked up the rebound and put it in the back of the net. Three more players for Switzerland that really impressed me. I've got Lorenzo Canonica, who was really good in this game. Jonas Teibel, who got 2 assists in this game and played really well. I thought that his playmaking ability was really strong. He was taking sort of well-timed shots on net. And then obviously Attilio Biasca for that overtime winner for Switzerland. That's it for our first segment and our evaluation of the Finland and Switzerland game. Now we're going to go into Sweden and Austria and then USA versus Latvia right after these messages.
Do you like betting? BetOnline.net is your number one source for any wager that interests you. From the NFL to the NBA to the MLB and even NCAA football, UFC, golf, anything you like, they have you covered. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in depth analysis on every game on their website or app. They're, of course, a great source for all of your sports wagering information with live betting so you can keep up with bets as they unfold. They've got up to the minute scores for every sport out there. They're the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite games and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts.
All right, so moving on to Sweden versus Austria. Now, I'll make it short. This was a blowout. Sweden took this one 11-0. And to be fair to Austria, they were missing their best forward in Vincenz Rohr, who was sick and had to stay at the hotel. And it was an especially feisty game too, with a lot of post-whistle shenanigans. So usually teams will sort of lay off the back burner when they're leading by 6, 7, 8-0 against a bottom of the standings team. But Sweden decided to take this one all the way. They were still trying with 5 minutes left in the third to score goals. They really wanted to show Austria why you don't mess with them. Sweden could have gotten many more goals if the Austrian goalies didn't do as good a job as they did in this game, especially Thomas Farmeyer in the first period. He was really, really impressive. Stood on his head for the first 10 minutes. The Swedes had 10 shots on him, 12 shots on him in the first 10 minutes, and he stood tall, stopped all of them. But then the Swedes' first line was just too good, and they ended up solving him. So the main reason that top line was able to solve him was Isaac Rosén. Isaac Rosén was just amazing in this game. He scored 2 goals and added an assist in the first 21 minutes of that match. So it was 3-0 at the very start of the second period. And then the onslaught began. You had Simon Robertson, who scored a beautiful wrister. Milton Oscarsson scored on the power play. And then the trio of Djurgården's players, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Liam Ögren, and Kallio Delius all scored in the second period to make it 8-0. In fact, the Djurgården's kids, all of them had points in that second period. Noah Östlund had an assist, Adam Engström had 2, and then the other 3 had a goal, and even more than that in terms of points. So all 5 of the 2022 draft eligibles who were playing with Djurgårdens at the time, all of them earned at least a point in that second period, which is really rare. First to have 5 kids from the same sort of crop who played on the same team, to have them all make the national team and all earn a point in the same period. It's a rarity. I wanted to mention that. And then Sweden added 3 more in the third period and ended the game with 15 different players on the score sheet, 8 of which had multi-point games, and 5 of which had 3-point games. So for the standouts for Sweden, there's a lot, but for me, Isak Rosén takes the cake by far. He was, in its stacked forward roster for Sweden, he was their best forward. And it almost wasn't close. I mean, he was everywhere on the ice. The amount of manipulation and deception and layered processing that he showed throughout this game, the goal scoring ability, the playmaking touch, it was just all there. He played with pace, he played with intensity. He was genuinely their best player and did a great job with the ice time he had. Second for me would be Leo Carlsson. 2023 NHL draft eligible. He added 2 assists in this game. Yes, it's an 8-0 blowout, but I really liked his play on the first line. And then the other player on that first line, the center of that first line, Philip Bistedt, gets a mention as well. So those 3 played really well off each other. I think that Leo Carlsson really complements skilled and intense players. He was on the same page as those 2 who are way ahead in their development. And had a lot more productive games. Both of them had a couple of goals, but for me, Leo Carlsson really complemented them extremely well. So I'm really glad to see that from him. Other than that, Simon Robertson had a really good game. I really like the goal scoring and pace that he showed. He played at high speeds, was able to connect with his teammates really well. I don't understand how he slipped all the way to the end of the second round in his draft year. He's genuinely a first round prospect. Other than that, Fabian Lucel had a lot of pace, a lot of skill to his game. He's showing a lot more inside drives in his game. I really like the fact that he's trying to cut across defenders' hands and try to get inside them. That was something that was a bit missing from his game, but he's still playing at top speed all the time. And I don't know how good that is for his game, because at some point he's going to reach a level where everyone is as fast as he is, and then what does he do? Other than that, Oscar Patterson was really good, an Ottawa Senators prospect, and Elias Pettersson, the Vancouver Canucks defender that they picked up in the 4th round. He was also very good in this game, showed a lot of defensive acumen, really good on retrievals, really good on breakouts. He was joining the rush. I saw a lot of good things from him. And then for Austria, the list is kind of short. There's 2 guys that I have for standouts for Austria. Thomas Farmeyer, who I already mentioned, he was pulled in the second period, and yet still for me was a standout in this game. And the other would be David Reinbacher. He's a 2023 NHL draft eligible. He's a right-handed defenseman. He's almost at a half a point per game right now, or I think he's above half a point a game in the Swiss top league. But he was really, really good in this game. A lot of aggression, a lot of intensity. Really good at boxing out forwards in front of the net. He was really good at blocking out the rush, and occasionally he made a pass or two that made me really impressed with what he can do with the puck as well. Moving on to USA and Latvia, this game ended 5-2 for Team USA, and it was much closer than the score indicates. In fact, the two teams were tied at the end of the first and at the end of the second. It's really only in the third period that the Americans took over. So there were no goals in the first period at all. But then in the second, Jimmy Snuggerud, a St. Louis Blues prospect, he got a bunch of lucky bounces in front of the net as he was crashing it, and he opens the score. Logan Cooley gets the assist on that goal. And then Latvia ties it up a tiny bit later. Luke Hughes gets too aggressive in the neutral zone, tries to pinch up and block a forward from getting in the zone. The pass goes through him. It becomes a 2-on-1. A great passing play by the Latvians, and Henri Ravinskis scores to tie it 1-1. After that, Sean Behrens puts USA back up with a seeing eye shot from the point, and then Nils Finenko ties it right back up for Latvia with his own seeing eye point shot. And the game is tied 2-2 heading into the third. In the third period, though, Chaz Lucius, Winnipeg Jets prospect, scores on the backhand off the rush. A really great play. He was able to walk right in, get the puck on his backhand, and then shovel it in the top corner across the grain above the goaltender's glove. Then after that, Red Savage, a Detroit Red Wings mid-round pick, he doubled the lead for Team USA off a rebound, crashes the net, which is what he does best, offensively, and gets that goal. And then Luke Hughes, he takes a wrister from the point, it goes off the post, and then it was a really good shot, and that seals the deal. 5-2 for Team USA. So the standouts in this game for me, first and foremost, Jimmy Snuggerud was arguably the best player on Team USA in this game. He is so good in the corners. He works so hard off the puck to get pucks back on the forecheck, all that, and he gets a lot of bounces, and that's been true so far for him in the NCAA. But it's because he creates his own luck. He crashes the net. He does all the little things that lead to what we call dirty goals or garbage goals, but he makes his own luck, and that's all his making, and he's doing a great job with that. Another standout for USA for me was Sean Behrens. He was named the MVP in this game for Team USA. He was physical, he was defensively responsible, really good off the rush, and on top of that, he got a goal and an assist in this game, so played really well. Two players who didn't earn a point but played really, really well. First is Gavin Brindley, a 2023 NHL draft eligible. He played with a lot of pace, a lot of intensity. He made some smart passes. He was extremely solid in this game. And the other who didn't earn a point in this game but really played well was Lane Hudson. He made so many smart plays. Defensively, he was more than enough because he was able to keep up with the players that were heading his way. He was able to pivot quickly enough for his brain to really be showcased. Because again, in terms of intelligence, I don't think Lane Hudson's lacking in any sense. He understands the defensive side of the game really well. It's just that his body tends to lag behind his brain, and he ends up not being able to get a stick on the puck that he knows will be in that exact spot, etc. So that was really showcased in this game. He was really, really good defensively because he was able to keep up with the players. But that's for Team USA. Now we move on to Latvia. There's a couple guys who really impressed me. First, Gustavs Ozolinsh, really, really solid defensively. Nothing to do with Sandis Ozolinsh, by the way. No relation, but he was really solid defensively. He got the MVP for Latvia. Sandis Vilmanis, Florida Panthers prospect, he had a lot of pace and intensity in this game. And then Reiners Rulers, who is a 2023 eligible, he had 2 assists in this game, so he played really well as well. But that's it for our second segment regarding Sweden's blowout and Team USA's narrow win against Latvia. Now we're going to go into the biggest upset of the day right after these messages. So, to end things off, I want to discuss the biggest upset of the night. And unless something really weird happens, it's probably going to be the biggest upset of the tournament. Canada lost 5-2 to Team Czechia in the opening night of the World Junior Championship. Both Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli tried the Michigan in this game. This is how crazy this was. We had 2 Michigans from the team that lost. They didn't score, but it was funny seeing Fantilli go for it and then seeing Connor Bedard try to one up him immediately. So I think those two are going to try to one up each other a lot in this tournament. And that's good for Team Canada. That's good for the World Juniors. That's good for scouts. Good for fans. I have no problem with that. But coming back to the score, I want to sort of break down what happened. So during all that chaos of Bedard and Fantilli trying the Michigan, Shane Wright got a goal on the power play. He tipped in a point shot from Olin Zellweger. A great hand eye from him. Wright's hand eye is off the charts, and that's one thing that really makes him stand out. And I think it's going to help him score a lot from the bumper spot on the power play, even going into the NHL. But then, with barely 2 minutes left in the first period, Czechia scored two goals. First and foremost, Stanislav Zvozil, who had a monster game. We'll go into it later on. But Stanislav Zvozil, he sent Logan Stankoven scrambling with an inside out move on the left flank heading down, and then as he exits that move, he spots his D partner, David Spacek, who, in a rare case of two defensemen activating at the same time, Spacek makes a beeline for the far post. Zvozil puts it straight on his stick, and that's a tap in to make it 1-1. And then shortly after that, David Moravec, he took a wrister from deep, and it found its way through Benjamin Gaudreau to make it 2-1 Czechia heading into the second period. And then bad turned to worse for Canada at that point. Not even a minute into the second period, Stanislav Svozil walks right down the left dot and wrists one past Gaudreau to double Czechia's lead. 45 seconds later, and Connor Bedard decides he's had enough. He gets a partial break off a Kevin Korchinski pass that's deflected by Shane Wright, and then he puts it on his forehand, shoots it across the grain above the left shoulder of Thomas Uchanek to cut the lead to 1. So it's 3-2 at that point. But then the penalties started happening. Zach Dean took a 5-minute major in a game misconduct for a hit to the head of a Czech defender, and Canada has to defend shorthanded for 5 minutes while down the goal. And Canada doesn't play Connor Bedard on their penalty kill, so he did pretty well for the start of it for the first 4 minutes. But with about a minute left on the power play, David Juracek cuts through the offensive zone, and then he plays a backhand pass in front of the net, and Yaroslav Hmelash taps it in to make it 4-2 for Czechia. And 30 seconds later, Mateo Menchik walks in off the rush and just squeezes one past Benjamin Gaudreau, who's done for the night. He gets pulled. Thomas Milic comes in. He makes a couple of amazing saves, but Canada continued taking minor penalties. They took 3 of them in the third period, and that killed their chances of getting back into the game, and they end up losing 5-2. So for the standouts, we'll start with Team Canada. Shane Wright, for me, was among the best players for Canada in this game. He scored a goal, he added an assist, but more importantly for me, he kept things simple and was responsible defensively. And that's what I like to see from him. He's not the type of player who's going to blow through everyone and score between the legs or stuff like that. He's a very smart, intelligent, simple sort of meat and potatoes center who's going to make everyone around him better. I think that's his calling card in the NHL. I don't think, he should be the one to sort of put the whole team on his back and try to score, on every shift and put every puck on net. That's not his calling card. For me, Wright is the type of guy who's going to quietly impact the game, do all the small details right to keep the puck in possession of his team and in the offensive zone. And yeah, he played to his strengths. That's what I really liked about Wright's game tonight. He played to his strengths. I like that from him. Moving on to the complete opposite, but also a standout, Connor Bedard. 11 shots on goal in this game. He was buzzing tonight. He was everywhere, tried the Michigan, all that good stuff. He was really good. And you can look at the shots on goal and think, he probably missed a couple passing lanes that he could have passed into. And yeah, you're definitely right. He did take more shots than he should have, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that if anyone is going to shoot on every shift, it should be Connor Bedard. He's electrifying. He's got insane skill, insane pace. That's the guy you want taking 11 shots on goal for you in a game that you're losing and you need a goal. That's what you need from him. And he did score when the team was down 3-1. He scored to make it 3-2. And from his own will made that goal happen. He had Brennan Othman coming in right behind him, but he pretty much told him, "No, I got this." He skated in front of him to pick up the puck and then went for the shot, and that's how he scored. So, Bedard, yes, there was an ounce of selfishness in this game, but I think it's warranted when he has that level of skill, that level of goal scoring ability. I'm more than happy with him taking 11 shots in a game. That's what I want from him. Another player who stood out to me for Team Canada, Brant Clark. Brant Clark to me was the best defender on Team Canada again tonight. His two-way impact was solid. He was breaking up plays. He was starting, offensive rushes off his stick with really good breakout passes. He was good in the offensive zone, changing the angle of the shot to try to manipulate forwards out of position and get better shot lanes. Just really, really good in this game. I really liked what I saw. But I have to say, Brant Clark was not the only good defender in this game. I really liked Kevin Korchinski's play. Yes, he made some defensive mistakes, but I really liked how he was able to throw the puck up the ice for stretch passes. I like the way that he was moving in the offensive zone. Same for Olin Zellweger, who was again just so solid offensively. He's so good offensively. It's great to see from him. But I do have to say Benjamin Gaudreau was disappointing tonight. He allowed 5 goals and 17 shots. He let in a couple stinkers, including a point shot and that Matthew Menchik odd angle wrister on the power play. When Thomas Milic came in, it was so evident that he was more composed in net and he was more trustable in net. I think that Thomas Milic is going to take over the starting netminder spot for Team Canada, especially if they start him tomorrow and he has a good game. You just can't risk Gaudreau letting in another 5 goals on 17 shots against a team that really didn't show that much offense outside of their defenders, who were the main threats in this game. Then the standouts for Czechia, there were a decent amount of them, but obviously the top one was Thomas Suchanek, the netminder for Czechia. He was named Czechia's MVP in that game. He played amazingly, especially when his team needed it the most. He was able to shut it down. Specifically when they were up by 2, he played really well until Connor Bedard did a Connor Bedard thing, which is score. And the other time that he really sort of stepped it up was when they were defending the lead in the third period. He didn't allow a single goal. So they even earned an assist on the 5-2 goal, funnily enough. So he played a great game. Another Czech player who played a great game, Stanislav Svozil, had the game of his life. He was the 69th overall pick in 2021 of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it's amazing how we went from a sort of relatively safe vanilla defender with great rush defending, great skating, all that, but little offensive upside. He went from that to whatever this was in this game. He was shaking and baking. He was aggressive with the puck. He was taking the ice ahead of him confidently, taking shots, and just he developed so much offense since his draft here, and now understand why he's above a point per game in the WHL. I thought it was because he shared ice time with Connor Bedard because they play on the same team, but man, he was solid in this game offensively. And another player who impressed me on Czechia's team was Gabriel Stork. He was pretty good too. He plays on the Kelowna Rockets in the WHL. I spoke a bit earlier on in the year about how Andrew Crystal and Caden Price on the Kelowna Rockets don't have support. I want to personally apologize to Gabriel Stork. He's just so solid defensively. He's got so much intensity. He was like Czechia's spark plug on every shift in this game. So I really liked what I saw from him. That's going to be it for our recap of Boxing Day's opening World Juniors games. Now, if you like what you've been listening to, and if you've listened all the way to the end, first, I thank you very much. And second, make sure to like and subscribe if you like what you're listening to on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcasting platform, don't forget to make us your first listen of the day. It's always very much appreciated. For your second listen of the day, make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. They've got all your news and updates on all your favorite sports. So you can talk about sports at your water cooler at lunch break at work and sound like the smartest person in the room. Now, this has been Locked On NHL Prospects with Hadi Kalakesh, and I hope you tune in next time.